Welcome to the Raising Confident Girls podcast, your guide to raising strong, confident daughters. I'm Melissa Jones, the founder of Girls Positivity Club and a teacher for over 20 years. In a world where girls often feel overwhelmed, anxious, and confused, this podcast is your go-to space. As caregivers, we navigate challenges together. I founded Girls Positivity Club to provide a place where you belong and get the tools to face today's hurdles. Consider this your regular check-in with a trusted friend, offering insights and practical tips for meaningful conversations. I'm here to help you feel confident on this journey of raising a generation of empowered girls. Let's dive in and raise those confident girls together. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Raising Confident Girls. I am so happy you're here today. I am Melissa Jones, your host and the founder of Girls Positivity Club. And today we have a topic that comes up no matter what age your daughter is, because it's just something that evolves over time. And it's something that as humans, I think even as adults, we try and figure out who our friends are. And so sometimes along the way, your daughter may feel like she doesn't have friends. Now, this doesn't have to be every day, but it's very common for there to be a point where a girl may have this thought or this feeling depending on the situation. So today's episode is dedicated to supporting your daughter through the "I don't have any friends" comment that she may either say or be reflecting in some of the conversations that you're having. So every parent hears this at some point in some form. So I think that it's more common than not. And it's them feeling like they don't have anyone to sit with at lunch, or it's feeling like they're starting a new activity or a new school or a new classroom, or they may just be feeling disconnected, where this kind of comment comes out as quite a bit of a shock to you. And those words really cut deep. Like, that's the thing that as parents, we don't want to hear from our kids, is that they feel alone or that they feel like they don't have friends. And a lot of times that is shocking because we thought everything was fine. Or maybe it's a situation where you're expecting them to feel a little bit of discomfort because it's normal when you're in a new situation, a new setting. But it can be a really tough time for them because they aren't really sure how to express it. And so it just comes out as, "I don't have any friends." And while we want to reassure her and say things like, "You'll make friends soon," or it just is going to take time, and that's not true. What about this person? And what about that person? And we try and kind of prove to them that they do have friends. What she really needs is understanding language and tools. And most of all, for us to do the hardest thing, which is listen and acknowledge the way she's feeling and help her feel like it's normal to feel that way in a certain context. So today on this episode, we're going to talk about 5 ways to support her if she's ever feeling in that lonely stage, or if friendship is feeling overwhelming to her. Before we get into the tips, you know what I'm going to say. The best compliment, if you've listened before, is to send this episode and this show in general to another parent who it could support, a caregiver, someone who wants to simply have positive impact on girls' lives. Because I think for me especially, I didn't just have one voice. I didn't just have my mom or my dad. I had a lot of people that were an important role in my life. And so the more we can come together around these girls and support them and give them the tools to work through these things, the more confident they're going to feel as a generation. And if you are listening to this podcast right now, then you are the type of person who believes that and who wants to support girls in growing up feeling confident, connected, and like they belong, like they can do anything. And so let's get into the tips. So if we were thinking about this situation, which can sometimes be a gut punch for us to hear as parents, is the first tip is we want to validate her feelings without her feeling like she's brushed off. So I know for me, I've unintentionally done this before. "Oh, that's not true." "Yes, you do. Remember Sarah, remember this person, remember that person." Or don't worry, you'll make friends. It's just the beginning of the school year. Everybody's adjusting. And those things are true. And I know you believe that those things are true because I've said it and I believe it too. But the problem is when they are truly feeling this as a deep level and they finally said it out loud to you, a lot of times it will feel very dismissive. And what she hears is, you don't get it. You don't get it. You weren't at school. You weren't in the situation. And so what we want to make sure that we're doing is validating how they're feeling, even if we think it's not true, even if we think they might just be looking at it in a different way, things like that. So instead of saying like, you'll make friends soon enough, it just takes time, it's not true, things like that, you can say, that sounds really hard. I'm sorry that you felt left out. If they're describing something where maybe they couldn't sit with a friend or couldn't be with a friend during a project, or they wanted to play with someone at recess, but they all ran off without her, something like that. So instead of saying, like, I know I've said before, well, why didn't you just go play with someone else? It's like, to them, that's not helpful because they didn't want to play with anyone else in that moment. They wanted their usual friends, or they wanted to play with that certain person. Same thing with in group projects in schools, or in situations where they thought they were really close friends with somebody and then they feel kind of snubbed or dismissed or ignored. They can start to internalize it and feel like, well, they don't like me anymore, which really may or may not be the case. But if we say, like, that sounds really hard, I'm sorry you felt left out, or I'm sorry that happened to you, it's not that you're never going to help her through it or encourage her to do certain things, but it just helps her feel like, okay, she gets it. And if it's a new activity, so let's say she was super into basketball for a while and she loses interest in that and she starts a different hobby or a different activity and she's meeting all new people, she is going to feel like an outsider. And so you could say something like, it makes sense that you're missing that connection from your basketball team. Or it makes sense, this is a new school year and you have all new classes and your core people aren't in your classes. That makes total sense that you're not feeling super connected or you're not feeling like you're meeting people yet. So pausing there and just waiting before we give advice. I've talked about this if you've listened on the podcast before. A lot of times we will just skip straight to the advice and we're like, oh, it's okay, like it'll work out. And we do mean that in our hearts because we know with our adult lens, it does end up working out. And whether she makes new friends or she figures it out in some other way, but to them, that's not helpful in the moment. And they don't actually want us to give them a solution right away. They first want to hear that we understand them and we see them by saying things like, that makes total sense that you would feel that way. You just started this club. And so I'm sure you are, and then giving them the encouragement and teaching her like that loneliness does not equal unworthiness. So a lot of times they will start to internalize that if they were left out of something, or they feel like people aren't talking to them, or they used to be friends with this friend group, but they're not in any classes and they're not sure how to approach it, they can feel like maybe they did something wrong. Maybe like they're not good enough to be friends with those girls anymore. And really they're just feeling lonely. So just explaining to her that feeling lonely and like missing them is different than not being good enough to be in that friend group or not feeling worthy of having those types of friendships anymore. That would be, obviously for older girls, they would understand that a little bit more and you would say it in your own way. But for younger girls, they can even draw you a picture of how they're feeling. I've done that a lot of times with girls. Art is such a beautiful outlet of how they're feeling if they're having trouble verbalizing it. And they can also draw a picture I'm talking like the younger girls, they can draw a picture, they can write a card to a friend who they want to hang out with or want to play with, or there's someone they're missing. For the older girls, you could brainstorm with them one low risk reach out. So maybe it's asking someone to be her partner in something, or maybe it's noticing that someone else has the same common interest and doing that thing at recess. Maybe it's inviting someone to just talk to them about a topic that they have in common. So maybe not inviting, but it's more like just having a conversation around a topic that you have a common interest around. Or walking with them to a class if they're older. And so thinking of whatever low risk, though some of those may seem high risk for some girls. So just asking them, like, what feels like an easy reach out? Like, what could you do? Is it starting to say hi to someone new? Is it asking about someone's interests? Is it asking if they want to do something outside of school? That might seem more like high risk for them. So just asking her what that would mean to her. And low risk just simply means that it's not like they're asking them to have a sleepover or they're asking them to do something big. It's more just starting to make that first point of connection, just like a small step in that direction. And so at ages 6 to 9, it could, and I'm a really big fan of role playing, especially for girls who don't know how it's going to sound, or they're worried about, if you have older girls, worried about it seeming cheesy or cringy or embarrassing, whatever that would be. So in the younger grades, that could sound like, can I play too? Going up to them. And if that feels too risky, I also like parallel play. So if this is from even toddler years, when you would parallel play, when they would do that as kids, as really young kids, like toddlers, where they would sit side by side and do the same activity with another child, not necessarily interacting with them, but they're playing beside them or near them. And then that feels easier for them to interact. So that is something at a younger age, if asking if they can play too, or they can color too, or they can join the game feels too risky, maybe they're nearby and they work up to actually asking that. At the next stage, at ages 10 to 13, it would be identifying a safe person that she can look for at lunch, at recess. So who would be that one person that feels safe, like they're not going to turn them down, and they're going to be someone they feel comfortable with, even if they're just getting to know them, who seems nice to where they would be a safe connection for them, and just starting with one person. As they're getting older, 14 to 18, more that high school age, you could send them, like, either say it or send a text if they're allowed to have phones. Want to sit together during this class tomorrow? Want to sit together during lunch tomorrow? Like making some kind of an effort, want to be partners in this project. Thinking of what would be that same thing, like that safe reach out, and who would be that person that you could initiate that with. Because one small reach out can start a chain reaction of belonging. Like them reaching out, sometimes what they do is they'll wait for people to come to them. And those people may not necessarily know that they're feeling left out. So encouraging them just to do one small thing that would help start that process of putting themselves out there in low risk ways at first, and knowing that there is a chance. I mean, you wouldn't lead with this, of course, or put all these doubts in their mind, but there is a chance that they would be rejected. But just knowing that they can keep trying with different people. So just thinking of who would the safest option be. And I would not emphasize at all the rejection piece, because they're already feeling like they don't have friends. So we want to emphasize what they have control over and what actions they can take that feel manageable for them, that feel simple to do, and helping them say that out loud, and knowing that it's okay to feel that way, and it's normal for them to feel sad about it or left out, and that they also can do something to change that. There's always a way, and it just starts with one small action. So that's tip 1. Tip 2 is to normalize that friendships shift. So what parents will often say is, well, they weren't real friends anyway. And that may be true, but for her, that may make her feel like silly for caring that they're dismissing her. So let's say, for example, that it's a friend group and you know that those girls gossip about other people, or they're very exclusive. They only invite people if they do a certain thing. And you knew that it wasn't really that healthy of a friendship group anyway. So we tend to say things like, they weren't real friends anyway. Those aren't the kind of girls you want to hang around. You'll get over it soon, things like that. And for them, it can feel, like I said, silly for caring or being like, well, actually, I did kind of like them. And I feel a little bit embarrassed that I did, but I did. So normalizing that friendships shift, and that's normal. I think that we get into this thinking that they're going to have the same friends for a long time, and friends can change over time. We know that, and oftentimes they do. And so I think that the girls especially start feeling like if they don't find their one person, that there's something wrong, or if they don't really stay friends with a certain person, they kind of switch friends a lot, or they try out different friend groups that can feel kind of like, well, I haven't found my place yet. Is there something wrong with me? Is there a reason that this is happening? And so we want to just make sure that we're normalizing that it's totally normal that this happens, and even giving examples and saying things like, it's normal for friendships to shift. It may not feel good right now, but this is normal, and you can care about someone even if it feels different now. So it doesn't mean too that they have to never speak to those friends again. So even if they do have a falling out, doesn't mean they have to all of a sudden give them the cold shoulder all the time. They can still be friendly. They can still be acquaintances. And it doesn't mean also that they're never going to come back together. But if they are branching out and kind of shifting friendship groups, or maybe they don't want to, but they kind of feel forced into it because these friends have gone off, or maybe they're the ones that want to shift their friendship. It can just feel different. And so just saying that it's okay to care about it, even if you know those friends weren't right for you. And it's okay if it feels different. Let's figure out who you want to hang out with. So you can even share your own shifting friendship story if you have one from when you were her age or even now. So if I tell my friendship shift story, it would be that I used to have a best friend that lived across the street. Her name was Beth, and we were best friends. We played at each other's houses. We rode bikes together. We did pretty much everything together. But my family moved to a suburb across town. And that really changed our friendship. I still loved her as a friend. I still enjoyed when we got together every month or two, but it did feel different. I felt like an outsider. I felt like I had missed out on her life whenever we would get together. And it wasn't like today where it would be a little bit easier to keep in contact. We had to physically go over to each other's houses. But my mom finally helped me see that it was okay because we could still be friends from a distance, but that I was starting to make new friends in my new activities in my new school. Now, I struggled with that even moving, but I did eventually find my people, and I never really made contact again with Beth, not because I never wanted her friendship again, but just because our lives kind of evolved in different ways, and that's okay. And that's normal. And there's nothing wrong with it. I didn't do anything to upset her. She didn't do anything to upset me. It just changed. Or maybe you were on a team, or maybe you were in a class, and maybe even as work, like I know I've had people that I've worked with before, and we were super close when we worked together. And then when we got different positions, our friendship kind of drifted. And it doesn't mean, again, that either one of us did anything wrong, or that we were never true friends or anything like that. It's just that it shifted. We started working in different places, different positions. We started making new connections, and that's okay. So sharing that would help her feel like it's not just her. And then also bringing it back to her and saying, like, remember when you used to do this and then you started doing this, and how you started hanging out with different people? It's like this. So it just helps normalize it for her and make it seem like that it doesn't mean that it's bad. It just is different. So growth doesn't mean failure. Like when you're growing in your friendships, it doesn't mean that that other friendship has failed. It just means that you're growing in different ways. So the way this can sound at different age groups is ages 6 to 9. They can even make a friendship map, especially if you have a crafty girl, where they can map out like who feels close to you now. And when I've done this with girls before, I like to do circles. So it doesn't have to be like a roadmap. It can be however it is, however she wants it to be. But I've done a circle, like an inside circle, and then kind of like a bullseye, and then another circle ring, and then around that another one. And so it's kind of naming those people or those types of friends that they have in each circle. So the smallest middle circles, their close friendship group, or the ones that they want to be in that group and who potentially could be close friends, safe people. And then the outside circle is like you hang out with them sometimes, but they're not people you would necessarily have over for a sleepover. Maybe you would every once in a while. And then your outside circle would be more of your acquaintance type of friends. So it's really helping her visualize her friends and where they are in her circle of friendships. And then as they're getting older, I think you can do that at any age, but as they're getting older, it's like starting to help her reflect on how she feels when she's around different friends. So, do I like who I am when I'm with this person? So, I know for me, I have been around people before who have been very kind, very inclusive, happy. Doesn't mean they're happy all the time skipping around, but they're positive, they're uplifting, and I feel really good and energized around those people. And then there could be people who are gossipy, who are negative, who complain a lot, and that makes you feel a different way. It kind of drains you. So this is where I did an episode several episodes back called Are Your Friends a Fountain or a Drain? So basically it's like a fountain is like those good, energizing, friends. The drain is the ones where you feel drained after you're with them for a while. So just asking her how she's feeling when she's around certain people and that she wants to spend more time around the people she feels really good around. Again, it doesn't mean they have a perfect friendship and nothing ever goes wrong, but more times than not, she feels better when she's been around them than drained or just like negative after she's been around them. And the way that I teach this to the girls in Girls Positivity Club is we talk about their energy. And you've probably heard this phrase before, energy vampires, which is they suck the life out of you. And then you want to be around those people who are energy radiators, or they like give off kind of like the fountain idea. They give off the energy that's good. So just asking her to be more aware of that, and they can start doing that in those older ages, 10 and up. And then when they're older, so 14 to 18, you can teach them about seasonal friends and lifelong friends. So it's that old saying, friends are with you for a reason, a season, and a lifetime. And just knowing that it's okay to have seasoned friends. So when you're on a dance team with somebody, or you're on the same cheer squad, or you're in the same photography class or art class or whatever it is, those can be seasonal friends. Now, they can turn into lifelong friends, but they don't have to. So just teaching her that those friends are okay too. And that was like the examples I gave earlier. Like when you're in class with somebody, you're going to get to know them better than if you're in different classes. So just talking about that with her and helping her see that that is totally normal and okay. And sometimes those friends can turn into lifelong. So look, I met my best friends that I still am best friends with today, my friend group in middle school and early high school. And that's been years later. So it still is possible, but I think just releasing that pressure that everybody has to be a lifelong friend is so powerful to give to the girls in your life, just to have that conversation with them. And because she's learning that friendships changing doesn't mean she's broken, doesn't mean there's something wrong with her, doesn't mean anybody did anything wrong. Sometimes they totally, sometimes something does happen, but more times than not, it's just kind of a drifting away and just helping her see that it doesn't mean no one likes her. It just means that things are shifting and she can shift too. So that's number 2. So number 1 was to make sure that you are validating how she's feeling without brushing her off. Number 2 is more that you're normalizing that friendships shift. And then number 3 is expanding her circle. So I described those circles that you can draw on a piece of paper to help her visualize her friends and kind of where people are. Not necessarily a ranking, but just helping her see like where she wants to put her energy and where her people are. And that she can also expand that circle. So parents will often say, because this is a very typical phrase to say, just put yourself out there. Just go talk to a lot of people. Just see what happens. And it's not that that's terrible advice, but that's overwhelming and super vague to the girls. They're like, just put yourself out there. What does that even mean? Like, do I stand in the middle of everybody and be like, hey, hi, hello? Like, what do I say? What do I do? How do I do that? So a lot of times they won't take any action because it feels so big or feels so vague, and they just have no idea what even the first step would be. And so instead, you could say something like, would you like to try something new together? Like, they could try something new with a friend. Or like having them just branch out and try something new. So I don't know that a girl would actually say to another girl, would you like to try something new together? But they might say something like, hey, do you want to try that club? It sounds kind of fun. So that's how it would sound more normal. And so what you should do to help her expand that circle is encourage her to try new clubs, new teams, volunteer. I have a girl that just told me that she just started high school, and she just started volunteering at an early learning center where she is actually helping toddlers and preschoolers. And she's finding a lot of value in that. She doesn't even want to be a teacher. Like, that's not like a cadet teaching experience or anything like that. She just likes to give back. And so whether this is like my girls who volunteered at my camps this summer at Girls Positivity Club camps, they were volunteering because they wanted to give back, and they also wanted to earn hours for their volunteer hours. And so if she wants to volunteer at an animal shelter, if she wants to volunteer at a food pantry, if she wants to volunteer with kids, whatever that would be, volunteer for a teacher to help clean up at the end of the day. As a former teacher, that would be a huge help to a lot of teachers. And so whatever that means, whether it's a team, it's an activity, just trying something different and seeing how it feels. And offering to help host a low pressure hangout. So if you're like, hey, do you want to just invite some girls over for a movie night? And, maybe they could watch a movie together, or they could jump on the trampoline, or they could do an art class together, whatever, just a very low pressure thing. It doesn't have to be this big outing. It could be like, do you want to ask some friends over to do a game night, or to bake cookies, or literally anything that would feel like a low pressure hangout, not like a party, or like a lot of times people be invited for birthday party sleepovers, and that feels like a big event because you're like, who's going? Will I know anyone there? Will we all get along? What will we do? What do I do if I don't like the food? What do I do if the game is a little bit embarrassing, or whatever it is? So just something low pressure, even if it's riding bikes. Do you want to ride bikes after school today? We live in the same neighborhood, or yeah, whatever the thing would be. So for ages 6 to 9, it would be inviting a new friend for a short play date. So maybe it's, do you want to come home with me after school and we can play? And then they figure out something to do, whether it's play outside, whether it's do puzzles, whether it's do art, whether it's anything, play soccer in the backyard. So just a short, but it's a shortened time frame. So like an hour or two. And then as they're getting older, ages 10 to 13, trying low pressure group settings. So maybe it's more of an art thing, it's a sports thing, it's a youth group, more of a group type of setting that feels like they're going to something, but it's not all reliant on them with another person. And it's also getting them out in a community setting, whatever that would be. And then ages 14 to 18, it's encouraging summer jobs, service opportunities, again, the volunteering, doing different things for the community, figuring out experiences that she would enjoy that would help her branch out and expand her circle, even if it's getting their first job when they're a teenager, or if it's volunteering at whatever park or for whatever event. Maybe there's an event going on in your community. I know I belong to different volunteer chats where they're always looking for volunteers to do the sign up booth or run a certain thing at a community event. So even if they don't even know anyone to do that, maybe you could do it with her. So she's not just feeling like dropped off where she doesn't know anyone. And again, this is that older age group, but maybe you go volunteer at a festival together and try it out that way. So these are different examples of how you can help her expand her circle, and so that she sees that she's not just stuck with one circle of friends, one, only her soccer team or only her classmates or only this certain thing. She can have different circles to where she is expanding and meeting different people. That way she has different friend groups to choose from when she is looking for something to do and just wanting to connect with other people. And again, it doesn't have to be that she has 5 different circles. It could be one person that she knows in a couple different settings, and that feels good to her. Some girls don't like to have a big group of friends because it feels overwhelming. It feels like too much to manage to figure out who's hanging out with who or who's playing with who. Some girls like to just have 1 or 2 close friends, but the danger in that is that too, those friends can have other friends. So just knowing that even just to have a couple people, not just one person that you're always depending on, is still expanding her circle. So that's tip number 3. Tip number 4 is to anchor her in family connection. So sometimes parents will say, why are you always hanging out with me? Like, I love hanging out with you, but why don't you go play with the neighborhood kids? Or why don't you call so-and-so? And so we're trying our best to help them branch out and meet different people or go do something outside of our home, especially if they're more of like homebody type of kids. But the problem with that can be sometimes is that it pushes her away when she's just trying to seek safety. So you are her safe space. You are her comfort. And so sometimes when we're like, why are you always at home? Like, why don't you go out and try something? It can inadvertently make her feel like you're pushing her away and like you don't want to spend time with her, which we know is not the case. But just saying something instead to her that's like, I love being with you. I love hanging out with you. Do you want to do this together? Do you want to go on a walk together? Do you want to go on a bike ride together? Do you want to do this? And teaching her to do that with other friends too. So you can have your connection time, and that's anchoring her in that family connection. Like, you want to have a set thing that you do, but also helping her have those outside connections too, because she needs both. She needs to feel safe at home and like she's connected with you and your family. And so you could do a weekly walk or a daily walk. I have people that do that, go on a family bike ride, do a bedtime chat, do a check-in at bedtime. I'm a very big advocate for that and check-ins. So maybe you have a morning routine you do together. Maybe you have an evening routine you go together that you do together. Maybe you run errands together. And so one of the ways you can do that to connect and stay checked in with how she is feeling about her friendships, and just also just have that safe connection with her and that warm connection, is at dinner. This can be at any age, but especially at the younger ages, a high and the low of the day. Like, what was a high? What was a low? So in Girls Positivity Club, if you've listened before, you know we call them yays and nays. So you can have it be called whatever you want. And yeah, and everybody just checks in about that. And that's a great way to build that connection and that emotional safety at home. As they're getting older, you could have weekly us time. So again, maybe it's a family game night. Maybe it's a night where you all have dinner together. If you have really busy schedules, and a lot of families have busy sports schedules to where you barely even eat dinner together because logistically you just can't, because someone's at practice, someone's at this activity. Maybe you work a certain amount of hours and maybe your spouse does too. And so you're always kind of scrambling to, number one, even get dinner, and number two, find time all together as a family. So maybe you pick a Sunday afternoon where you have an early dinner, or maybe it's Saturday mornings, or maybe those are your most chaotic times, and it would be this on a Wednesday at 5 p.m. So whatever that means for you, just having that family connection time once a week would be ideal, but obviously you have to figure out what works best for your family. And it just depends on the way that your lifestyle is with schedules and sports and activities. And that's a really good way to check in. And I believe in a 15-minute a day check-in, even if it's a quick thing where you are connecting in some way, even if it's just having a conversation in the kitchen. I know I do that with my teenager. A lot of times while I'm cooking or while we're cooking together, it'll be a time to have a conversation and a check-in. And then as they're getting older, there's something about being in the car or walking, like you're moving, you're side by side, and for some reason, conversation just naturally comes out. So walks or drives can be a perfect time for a private talk or even bedtime. So just checking in with them and saying, hey, I'm here for you. I know you had a big project due this week. How did that go? And it's just very simple and just keeping checked in with them. That is such a good way to anchor them in that family connection so that they have that security at home, even if they're not feeling secure in their friendships completely in the moment. So family connection really steadies her while she's feeling maybe shaky in her friendships. So I believe in this all the time, but it's especially important if she's feeling shaky in her friendships to have that anchor with you. And then the fifth tip, the last tip, is give her words for her loneliness. So I think a lot of times we'll make kind of dismissive statements like, you'll be fine, it'll all work out, you're young, you'll find your people, things like that. And we mean well, like I've said all these things, like I've said comments like this too. And in the moment, you're like not thinking about it and you're just like, it'll be fine, because we're looking at it as the adult lens. They are looking at it as their kid lens, and they are in it in the moment. It feels really real and raw, especially if they're feeling like they don't have any friends. And so the problem with just saying things like, you'll be fine, you'll figure it out, there's plenty of people out there, is that it doesn't really give her a tool, or it doesn't really give her much to work with. It's just like, okay, well, when is that going to be? Because to them, it just seems like it's out there in the abyss. Like you don't even know when that's going to, like, when will I be fine? How will I be fine? How do you know I'll be fine? And so instead of saying that, you could say things, like I said before, like, oh, that sounds super hard. You can always tell me when you need connection, or you can always tell me when you're feeling this way. That sounds like it was a sad time at school today when that happened. You can always talk to me about it. So it's helping her name it. Like, how did it feel? Did it feel sad? Did you feel lonely? Did you feel dismissed? Did you feel left out? Did you feel whatever? So helping her name it. And it's okay too if she doesn't know how she feels. It just didn't feel good. And then just teaching her short scripts of how she can reach out to people. So just giving her, I do this a lot with girls who are socially anxious and they're not quite sure like what to say to someone when they are getting to know someone new. So it's teaching her how to do that without it sounding like an interview. So it's things like, do you want to sit with me? Or can I sit here? Things like that. Or can you sit with me? Like naming what she needs. I felt left out. Want to hang out tomorrow? So actually saying that they felt left out is a pretty big risk as they're getting older, but it's such a powerful thing to do. And I have even had kids do that while I've been standing there just because they needed the extra support with it. Like they didn't know how to say it exactly. And so they could just say, even if it's to you, I felt left out. And then you could help them say, like, how would you ask someone if they want to hang out or want to do the project together tomorrow? And it may be just as simple as saying, do you want to do the project together? Or do you want to sit together at this thing? And then for the older girls, if we're really teaching them how to express their feelings, just saying like, I've been feeling a little distant lately. I know I've been busy with this, but I'd really love to catch up with you. If it's someone that they haven't really had much contact with, especially if it's a new schedule, and I'm talking about the older girls, like 14 and up, when a new grading period or school term starts, it could be like they don't have classes with that person anymore at all. And so they may say like, hey, you want to do a hangout? Like, I feel like we haven't talked in a while. So they may not say exactly like, I feel distant or I'm feeling lonely, but just, I miss you and I want to hang out. So do you want to catch up? You want to go get a drink after school, lemonade, this or that? Do you want to meet in this certain spot and take a walk together or whatever that would be? And it may end up that it has to happen over the weekend because maybe they don't have time during the week, but it's helping her know how to reach out to people so that she's just not making assumptions about that other person is mad at her or something's happened that she doesn't know about or they don't like her anymore. So it's helping her work through, like, you don't have to make an assumption about it because you don't know. And you need to also let people know that you want to be around them. So sometimes they wait for people to come to them, and that doesn't always work because the person doesn't know that they want to be around them. So it's helping her name it, because when they name how they're feeling, if they're feeling lonely, if they're feeling left out, if they're feeling like they're not good enough to be in that group, whatever that is, it takes away its power. So teaching her how to do that and name it makes it not as scary. And then that's when you can give her that validating language and be like, yeah, I felt that way too. And I get that. I totally get that. What would you like to do about it? Do you want to? And then just see what she says. So all of these tips are things that are going to help your daughter really start to see that she can have some power in taking action with reaching out to friends, making new friends, feeling more connected. And it can feel scary sometimes because friends are a big deal in school. And especially if they feel like they haven't really found their people or their people are changing. It is something that is very important in her life. And so we want to make sure that she knows she can talk to us about those things and that she can feel like it's real to feel that way, but it doesn't define her. So when you validate it, when you normalize it, it helps her expand her circle. It helps anchor her at home. It gives her words. It shows her that she's not alone, that you're with her with it. And you give her those lifelong tools, because at any age, you can use any of these tools for connecting with people, because really a lot of times it's about you making the first little step toward getting to know someone else and expanding your circle. It's knowing that those types of things happen sometimes, especially when your interests shift or your life shifts in some way. And it doesn't mean that you're never going to have another friend. And so I think that we just have to help them see that there are lots of times when this happens in your life, and it's okay to feel this way. And there's always a way that she can feel more empowered in her friendships. And so I hope this was helpful for you. If you think that this could help another parent or caregiver of a girl, the best way that you can help them is to share this episode. So send it to them right now so that you don't forget. I know for me, sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I'll send that. And then I forget to do it. So send this to them if you think it would help them. If their daughter or your niece or whoever it is might be struggling a little bit with friendship right now, and just know that I'm here for you if you need anything at all. And let's keep raising those girls who know that they are worthy of good friendships and that they don't have to stay in friendships that are not good for them. They can expand their circle. They can know that it's normal to have these feelings, and they can be supported along the way and find the ones that they really, truly feel are their real friends. So until next time, keep raising those confident girls, and I'll see you next week. Thanks for joining another empowering episode of the Raising Confident Girls podcast. Share today's insights with caregivers and friends, building beautiful relationships with strong girls. Hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. We're not just a podcast, we're a community. Follow Girls Positivity Club on social media for more empowering content on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. This podcast empowers you, supporting incredible girls. Let's create strong, beautiful relationships with the girls in our lives. I appreciate you listening today. Stay confident, stay connected. Until next time, keep raising those confident girls. You've got this.